The idea of not overlooking, there's a term that gets thrown around a lot called customer proximity, staying close to the customer. And I had a gentleman on, he's a four-time B2B CRO, and he talked a lot about customer proximity. And he said, Steve, but when I say you've got to have a lot of conversations with the customer, he said, those that are outside of the sales environment. He said, tremendous learning from the sales environment. But I think his point was that today, buyers are waiting longer and longer to want to talk to us. They've already put the short list together. They're in a validation mode. They're in a confirmation mode of decisions they've already made. And can you fulfill those decisions? Yes. Is there more to learn? Absolutely. And we can play that role. But he was talking about the conversations that happen earlier as they're forming their opinions, as they're designing how high of a priority is this pain point to me, the emotional risks involved, right? What do you think about his idea of customer proximity, but being proactive at getting conversations that are outside of the sales conversation, that are designed to be earlier stage?
If I understand the outside of the sales conversation, on one hand, if we're talking about being provocative and thought leadership oriented, helping for solutions where there may not necessarily be a known need or they may be breaking into a new category, I definitely think there are ways to be provocatively engaging with a customer to help like unlock that mindset. So absolutely. I'm not going to be able to think of a great example off the top of my head, but there are many brands that have been very successful of bringing to light a problem that exists in the market that they're purpose built to solve for, and really showcasing the value of that to their customer base, and
Yeah.
and being out in a thought leadership environment and really setting the conversation versus competing at the end when a buyer is 70% of the way through their journey, for sure.
So if a buyer is almost completely through their journey, I think it was Sixth Sense, Bain did some studies on this as well, McKinsey, that on average, the short list, when it gets formed on day one, 4 or 5 vendors are put on it. 95% of the time, one of the winners is from that short list. We got to get on the short list, right? Getting on the short list, in your mind, how does trust play in? The brand, you being seen as a legitimate player in the marketplace. What are the things that help us get on the short list that maybe when you were talking about lead gen, demand gen before, what are the things that help us that we've got to do in advance to get on that short list, to have the opportunity to close deals?
Yeah. I always think proof that you can deliver what you promise. I think that's always a winning approach. For instance, I've always believed do references early in the sales cycle, introduce someone to a customer and let them hear it directly from a customer. I'm not a believer in let the reference check be the last thing that happens because I think they're super high value. So that may be a tactical answer to your really thoughtful question, but I really think that so much of the value that sellers can offer in the buying process is to let that buyer explore answers to the questions that they have and really understand what those questions are from pattern recognition and be able to serve up solutions to that early on. Not wait to be asked, but to be proactive in knowing what are likely challenges.